Look, it's Sunday, March 1st, 2026. So while most of the world is taking a breather and enjoying a day off, I'm looking at the landscape, and the ground has just shifted. Since it's a quiet Sunday, you won't see much what's going on and the usual talking heads, but the moves made over the last 48 hours are going to be the only thing that anybody talks about tomorrow. So be prepared. Now, if you're tracking the AI space like I am, you'll know things move incredibly fast. But what just happened between the government and big AI labs is on a whole different level. It's a complete shift in the landscape, and it's something every business owner and tech forward professional needs to have on their radar. Here's the frontline briefing or the standoff between Anthropic, OpenAI, and the government. I'll have a few things that I believe might be relevant as well. The first part, the Anthropic shutdown on Friday this week, the 27th. We remember there's not that many days in February. On Friday, it came to a head. So President Trump issued a direct order for all federal agencies to stop using Anthropic's technology immediately. That wasn't just a budget cut, it was a full-blown supply chain risk designation, the kind of label usually safe for foreign adversaries like Huawei. Anyway, the red lines, Anthropic CEO Dario Amodei, and just very, very similar to me to a Dark Helmet in the Spaceballs series. I don't know, does anybody else get that? He refused to back down on two safety guardrails, no mass domestic surveillance of Americans, like that movie out there with what's his face, and no fully person of interest, and no fully autonomous lethal weapons, meaning AI making the call to pull the trigger. Now, the fallout, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, the Department of War, basically called it a betrayal. The government wants these tools for lawful purposes, and they're not interested in private companies settling the ethical boundaries for the U.S. military. The legal battle, Amodei was on CBS News the morning Sunday. If you haven't watched that, please do, vowing to fight this in court. They're not going to go quietly. And the reason being, of course, supply chain. Anybody involved in the government supply chain using Claude, Anthropic's Claude, yeah, that's a problem, because if they're getting stuff from the government or doing work for the government and they're attached to Claude, from what it looks like, that could be a bad thing, and Claude would have to end those relationships. They would have to end those relationships with Claude. So OpenAI steps in, of course, right at 0 hour when they were needed the most, right? Of course, Altman jumps in just as the door slammed on Anthropic. Altman and OpenAI walked right through it. Now, remember, I think Microsoft is still connected in the background. So maybe as much as it is OpenAI, it's also Bill Gates. That's interesting. But anyway, truth be told, we'll find that out, I'm sure, as things continue to roll out. They secured a $200 million contract to deploy their models to the Department of War's, the rebranded Pentagon classified networks. Now, because of this, I guess the safeguards that Amodei wanted, they don't. They don't need those. Now, if you read the small print, apparently there's guidelines in place, but that they wouldn't specifically say it. I guess Amodei didn't think that was enough. So OpenAI kept those same red lines, however, no surveillance, no killer robots. At least that's what's being reported. Now, you understand. I hope I speak for everybody out there. Everything you see, even me talking, you got to verify. Got to verify everything. If we're saying we're going to war with another country because of these reasons and these are the results, you have to make sure that that's true. Everything you should look at out there should that first stop should be, that's fascinating, that's interesting. But just because you're watching one of our leaders tell us something, that doesn't mean we should take it all in as being real, especially with the AI garbage that's out there in the form of news and entertainment. I don't think cats can talk, but my God, they sure can dance. All right, so the difference is the government seems to trust OpenAI's technical safeguards more, or perhaps they just prefer OpenAI's willingness to let the government oversee those violations rather than the company having the final say. The backlash is going to split Silicon Valley for sure. There's a massive cancel ChatGPT movement brewing online. You can see that everybody has to take a side. The critics calling OpenAI opportunistic for jumping in while Anthropic took the ethical hit. And opportunistic, yeah, smart business, sure. Is that going to ruin that company? Probably not. It seems like most of the vendors and suppliers attached to the government do pretty well. If it ruined them, it would be surprising to say the least. So what's next? The less hype, more help hearing. Tomorrow morning, Monday, March 2nd, the transition begins for agencies to phase out Claude. But Tuesday, March 3rd, is the big one. The Senate is holding a hearing titled Less Hype, More Help. The government is pivoting hard away from the safety regulations and moving towards national competitiveness. They want AI that drives productivity, beats China, and they view safety guardrails as potential woke roadblocks. Safety, what's that all about? For all of us in real estate and business, well, this means we might see a flood of new, less restricted tools, but with a lot less oversight. I don't know if that makes me feel any better because the tools are pretty edgy in some cases. So this is what I'm thinking here. And the part that really grabs me, Anthropic's stance actually made, I think, them more popular with the public. So it's really building into this us versus them strategy and the way people are looking at it. As of today, Sunday, Claude is the #1 free app in the App Store, overtaking ChatGPT for the first time ever. People are looking for a safety first brand they can trust, whether you're teaching an AI bootcamp or talking to clients in Santa Clarita. That's the message. The government wants power, but the consumer wants protection. And I'll tell you that if I continue to watch this unfold, the way that I interact with the different large language models, for me, Claude is wonderful. And OpenAI's ChatGPT, a little lessly so, but still great. And Google is, I think, might actually be the victor of this because it seems like they've escaped any kind of questionable activities. It seems that way so far. So if we're looking for an ultimate winner, which I think there'll probably be multiple AI companies that are kind of left standing at the end, but it depends on how massive the transition between artificial general intelligence and superintelligence is, whether it's us here in the West that achieves that pinnacle first, or if it's going to be some foreign adversary, and truly understanding that maybe bridging into superintelligence could be the complete game changer for all of society, all of the world, and everybody that's aligned with the government that first arrives there is going to be the big winner, whatever the big winner means. I can't imagine those of us that don't have health insurance and are hoping that we're going to get paid at some time in the future that aren't sitting on, millions of dollars in the bank or invested in stocks or in real estate or whatever that may be. Hopefully we'll be able to step up and continue our processes and the jobs don't get replaced all over the board, starting with, people that do the sort of work that you and I might do. But the people at the top talk a big game and they are building these things. We didn't vote them into office either, but we'll have to continue to watch as this drama plays out. But I just shake my head and I think to myself, how fascinating we are. And now we're in Iran and now that fight has gone underway, and you see that their supreme leader was killed. And of course, we're claiming that us and Israel are responsible for that action. And you see some of the news, the people that live in Iran or the people that are outside of Iran, I should say, they're very, very happy it happened. Maybe they can go in, and knowing that culture very, very closely, knew them for over 30 years, being in those families, I see that there are a lot of people that would like nothing more than to have the government change up a little bit, but at what cost? We'll have to see how that plays out as well. Anyway, these are the AI updates. I was dying to try to find more information on what happened with Anthropic and Claude and Dark Helmet and the Spaceballs saga. We'll have to keep watching. I do like Claude and I do like OpenAI. If I had a suggestion to give you, if you were listening to what Connor thought, maybe you should work yourself around to the different large language models and explore other ones. You'll see at the very beginning, as it gets to know you, it's going to be a little clunky and strange. And then you can develop your own mind up to see if it's placating you or playing you or just doing things and treating you in such a way to keep you around. One of my final suggestions, I suggest this on my shows when I do my podcast and talking to clients, ask it to be a tough mentor. Ask it to be a very heavy critic. Ask it to always have the best things for you in its mind, figuratively. But ask it to always want the best for you and to call you on your BS, call you on your delay, call you on the things that you typically do after you interact with it a while. After you ask it to help you in different business modes or maybe entrepreneurial endeavors, it'll figure out that, well, Connor's really good at having all these ideas, but Connor just doesn't ship, or whatever your problem happens to be. All right, everybody, thanks for watching. We will see you, as soon as I do another one, which will probably be tomorrow. And thank you very much. You can find more about me, ConnorWithHonor.com. That's C-O... Oh, it's right here. Yeah, just like that. All right, we'll see you tomorrow. Thanks for watching.